What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. We're back this week. I'm here with Scott, and Pedro makes a return. What's good, Pedro? It's been a while, I feel like, since you've been on the show, man.
I've been here in spirit all along.
Well, you're on the last Daredevil episode with Paul a few weeks back.
Yes.
Welcome
The
back.
last episode, but the premiere of the show.
Yeah, the topics today. We're going to be talking a little bit about Apple TV, which we don't usually discuss, but there are two shows in particular. This weekend was the premiere of a new show by Seth Rogen, starring Seth Rogen, called The Studio. And there's another show that it's been on Apple TV Plus for about a month now, or started early this month, called Dope Thief. We're going to cover that, and then we're going to cover the return of Dark Side of the Ring, the Mick Foley story. Is there anything? I'm kind of curious what you guys watched. What are you munching on, Scott? I see you.
You got to tell us what you're snacking on, because I always have to say it. So
okay, it's a special edition cookie.
I know those cookies. Those are the grandma cookies.
Is it Girl Scout season?
There's no grandma affiliated with these cookies.
It's Girl Scout season, but you have to place your order already. Ship sailed, buddy. They should be coming in the next month or so.
But I'm sure you can to kill the magic. I think you could just order them online.
Wow.
I think the magic has dissolved. I think you can order them online without an affiliation.
No, man. If you don't you know, like, don't you have a niece, a daughter, or a kid at work?
But
you can also just go on the website and order them.
Yes, but that's what the
Grinch would do. But
that destroys all the authenticity. I think Bruno talked about we were very random on the last episode. I think we're raising that bar of that randomness.
It went up a little bit.
I think it went up a bit more.
I wanna ask you guys what you've watched this week. Anything, Pedro? You haven't been on in a minute. What have you been watching?
Not a lot of stuff, but one thing I will mention, and we've brought it up on the show before, is the animated series Common Side Effects. They're up to episode 9, and the season finale is next week coming up.
Tonight,
so I'm all caught up on that, and that's a really, really cool, fun show. It's quick. It's like 22-25 minutes, but it's like action packed from beginning to end. There's like so much going on, and like
it's deep too.
Yeah,
it's not like a simple like pharmaceutical show. Like, it's complicated.
Yeah, no. If you want to if you want to just be in it for the fun of it, like the chase and like this guy like being chased by the FBI, then you could look at it for that. You could also watch it for and at the same time think about like the deeper meaning of this stuff. And even in the last episode, there was like the people that were trying to do good and farm this special mushroom that heals everything. Even within that, there's corruption, because like the people he's trying to help out for free are like, hey, they still found issues with it. So it's like you can never please everyone. You can never do something for the good of like mankind, and it just stay that way.
Even doing something that's wholly good, people question your intentions, and then that spirals, creates conspiracy, and then people turn on you and turn violent. It looks at medicine and potential life-changing medicine from all of these interesting angles. It's a great little animated drama. It's also very funny, and it just got picked up for season 2.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah. By the time this podcast drops, the finale will have aired. It's on Max right now, so check that out.
And we'll review the finale next week. We'll do a quick
we should do a little recap, because I've been the only one watching it, so I'm glad you're also into it. Scott, what's up? What have you been putting your eyes on the big screen?
Wow, that question got to me. No, it didn't. My cookie. Woo. Well, I got caught up with The White Lotus. We're inching to the finish line. I'm not going to get too far into it because if you haven't been watching, you need to catch up because the our series finale, whatever you want to call it, pretty much the series finale is coming up this upcoming Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, I don't. I'm realizing I'm feeling the same thing I did with Severance. I don't love this season as it goes on. The character of Tim, the dad, who's for like the past 6 episodes, he's just popping pills and wandering around like a zombie, but not really doing anything. So Piper's character just feels like pointless this whole season. I don't know what sort of character arc she's supposed to be going through, but so there's some of the characters are just not as interesting as others. And it feels like, I don't know if you remember, but season 1 I think was only 6 episodes, and this one I think is it 10? I'm not sure if it's 8 or 10, but they could have trimmed that down back to 6 and made it a tighter story, I feel like. But I'm still hooked.
It feels like all of the storylines are just going to close up real fast.
Yeah, very fast.
The mountain, we're climbing up the mountain way too much for it to just go, okay, now we're going to resolve everything.
Yeah. But maybe we'll talk about the finale. I went to watch Princess Mononoke. It's been playing on IMAX for like the past week. I didn't realize, I think the last time I went to see an IMAX movie, I think might have been with you, Pedro, when we went to see is me, you, and your buddy. What did we see? We saw Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now.
And when you walk into an IMAX theater, you feel small. Like, it's intimidating. You forget how massive those theaters are and how big the screen are. It's like arena seating. So as soon as I walked in, I got pretty excited. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about these. Princess Mononoke is a Studio Ghibli film from, I think, the early 90s or late 80s. I don't recall. I actually had never watched it. I watched parts of it, but never watched the complete movie. And I recommend everyone who has kids or who just likes movies just to watch Studio Ghibli films. And this one in particular is freaking awesome and funny, action-packed, bloody. It's great. I'm trying to think of what else I watched this weekend that stood out to me. Oh, I do want to put you guys and the audience onto a new show, and I watched it. I didn't take any notes or anything, so I'm just going to ramble for a second. It's a new show on Paramount Plus called MobLand. It stars...
Yeah, I kept getting ads for that on my Roku homepage.
Oh, can you watch it on there?
I don't have Paramount Plus. I have regular Paramount. So. But it looks like it's got a big cast, right?
Yeah.
Helen Mirren or something. Tom
Hardy, Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, and a couple of English dudes that you've definitely seen in other movies. I don't know all these guys' names. But it's basically about this guy they call the governor, who's like the HNIC. Tom Hardy works for him. It's about him and his family. In the first episode, his grandson, stabs some kid in a nightclub. That kid, and he happens to be with another mob's guy's son. The two fathers have conflicts. They're at war, but then the kids somehow are hanging out. And one of the kids disappears. Tom Hardy plays sort of like the liaison between everything. He's just like the ultimate problem solver. But the writing is really good. The action is subtle, but I feel like it's just not over the top at all. A lot of the tense and drama just comes through the acting and the scenes. So I really, really recommend that show. It's on Paramount Plus. A lot of people may not have that.
And this is like British mob stuff?
Yeah, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting Tom Hardy in an American accent, in Chicago or New York somewhere, but no, yeah, it's British.
Well, when you read the cast, it sounded like it was all British actors, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I assume it's London. But but not really sure. But it's dope. So Run will recommend that. That's on Paramount Plus. Anything else before we move on to main topics?
I think
No,
Pedro mentioned that about the rebrand of Max.
Yeah, we got to touch up on that real quick.
Any hot takes?
Well, I think in addition to the logo change, they sort of snuck in a change that I believe the sports offerings are no longer available under the ads version of Max, that you have to subscribe to no ads in order to get the programming of the Warner Media channels like TBS, TNT that had
NBA,
hockey and NBA
MLB. Yeah.
and golf. Those
Okay.
offers.
Oh man, that's a low blow, man. Because it was on quote unquote beta mode, right? All this whole time, like Max News and Max Sports.
Yeah.
They figured out the value of it. No more beta. Beta's
So
over.
if you have the ad supported version, you have to pay an additional fee for live sports and news. Is that what it is?
I believe it has to do with sports, so you have to pay for the sports. But they just don't make it available as part of the ads, because I have the with ads. I haven't really checked, but you have to. The sports and news content was provided at no cost, but beginning March 30th, the BR Sports and CNN Max content was no longer available based on the Max basic with ads tier.
So yes. Okay. I never really watched sports on there. Once in a blue, I'll catch a Knick game because they do advertise it sort of on that lower one of the tabs. So you do see what games are coming up. Sometimes I'll watch a Knick game on there, but not. I'd be fine losing the sports and news. That's not really why. That's not really my reason for having that app in the first place.
Yeah.
But
they give you an invite to switch plans. I just noticed it. You just have to press switch plans if you want to actually see it.
Okay, it is not a bad deal if you watch baseball, basketball. I guess to get those.
Only if you don't have regular cable. If you have regular cable, there's no point to have it in two places.
Yep, that's a good point. And they changed the logo from blue with white text to black with like a silver text. It basically looks like the old HBO logo, and I don't know if they're trying to sort of make people remember that or I have no idea. These people.
It's funny because when I logged in this weekend to watch something, like I noticed it, but I didn't like immediately put two and two together. I'm just like subconsciously thinking like, oh, this looks a little different, but it looks nicer for some reason.
They went
and then then it turns out that they're just like news. It's actually news. Like they changed it. They went for a look or whatever. And it's like,
so the whole interface is different because when you log on to the app,
I don't think the interface
everything
is
like
different.
Everything's like blue and purple though.
It looks like I'm on the website. It's just the logo.
Yeah.
Everything is still blue and purple.
Their interface is already confusing as is. So
yeah,
the fact that they didn't make it simpler, but at least they just did this logo. It's like, just leave it how it is. It's already bad.
Okay, well, good luck to them. They should just call it HBO. I think people will like that better. Okay, let's move on to Apple TV and what they're up to. We haven't talked about Apple TV in a while. Pedro, I know you mentioned on the chat that you watched Silo a little bit here and there. Is that still a thing you're watching?
Yeah, as I've explored the contents of Apple TV, I like hate it less and less. They have some interesting stuff on there. It's a couple of stuff that I have queued up that whenever I get the chance to, I'll see what's up with.
We have to make sure we don't upset the gods of Apple, because Apple TV is the device. Apple TV Plus is the streaming service. Not to confuse everyone. It's very confusing. You have a device that's called Apple TV, and then the streaming service is Plus. It's like, why can't they call it something different, really?
Yeah, we're talking about the app. We spent a lot of time talking about Severance to to be fair.
Yes.
But we don't generally talk about their other shows. Severance will probably win them a couple of Emmys, and everybody loves Severance. But I think in general, I don't even have Apple TV Plus. I had it when I did some traveling recently, and I got it for a month just so I can download a bunch of Severance episodes, but I canceled it immediately. There's nothing really on there that speaks to me outside of that show. It all feels like expensive looking shows with big stars attached, but really poor writing and just not interesting storytelling. Although, to contradict myself, Presumed Innocent was a show that came out this past summer, and it was arguably like top 5 show of the year for me. But that's kind of what they are, right? They'll have like a show here and there, and then you wait a year for that show to come back for another season if it's good. The Studio is a show that I've actually been looking forward to since seeing some early video teasers and trailers for it. It stars Seth Rogen as a studio executive who becomes a studio head, and basically his job is to impress his boss, who owns the studio, into making great movies. And the movie that the studio would just recently purchased the rights to is Kool-Aid. And so the entire first episode is Seth Rogen trying to figure out a way to make an artistic version of Kool-Aid. And he's very sort of headstrong about wanting a certain level director and cast and story built around Kool-Aid. He swindles somehow Martin Scorsese to turn his Jamestown film into a Kool-Aid movie. That quickly falls apart, but that's kind of like the arc of the first story. Is Seth Rogen's character sort of rise to this position that he's been wanting to attain for a while, but it doesn't turn out as glorious as he had anticipated, and he's now under a lot of pressure to produce movies that he hates. What did you guys think of the episode?
I thought it
sounded like. Go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry.
I thought it was quite good. As we said before, not every show on Apple TV Plus is impressive. I thought it stood out as far as the production value of the story was interesting, and they had, as you mentioned, so many A-list actors. I think Bryan Cranston, even though he wasn't in it that much, was one of the best parts of playing the big executive. Ike Barinholtz was also in it. I forgot the other, and also
Catherine Hahn, who is from she's from that Marvel show.
She's done a lot of things.
What was that Marvel show? The Witch? I don't know. Paul would know.
Don't forget the Home Alone mom was there too.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Of course.
That's
Catherine
O'Hara. Yeah, I think she's probably going to be one of the main characters of the series.
Mm-hmm.
So she basically is the executive that gets fired, whose job Seth Rogen takes, and then it's revealed that it's her at the end. She plays Patty Lee. I thought the show was cool. I love these kinds of shows that are like a behind the scenes of Hollywood, and you get to see all of these actors, directors, and writers play, funny versions of themselves. Like, you're never going to see another show with Marty Scorsese weeping in the background of a shot, or characters trying to figure out how do you pronounce Stephen Buscemi's name, and then he ends up correcting it in a few scenes later. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about adolescence and doing that one shot. The way this thing is shot is really, really cool. So the camera is kind of all over the place, following the chaotic environment of the studio, but they do a lot of tracking shots, long shots, where the camera just sort of follows the action around the space, up the stairs, outside, to the car. They do a lot of cool stuff like that. It keeps this sort of frenetic energy throughout the show. And then Seth Rogen, I feel like he kind of always plays himself, or this kind of version of himself, kind of like neurotic, nervous, stressed out guy, with good intentions for the most part. Yeah, it works for me. Pedro?
I think also directed it. Seth Rogen also was a director on it too.
Yeah, he was.
Does it work for you enough for you to watch the whole season?
I think so. Because I've been kind of looking forward for like a nice, smart comedy. I think this might be it. I remember a few months ago, I was talking about a show on Max called The Franchise, which has a similar vibe, which is about a movie director. And the whole thing is about this guy trying to direct and get a movie made. That was a 30-minute comedy. It didn't quite land. It ended up getting canceled. But that's what this one is kind of like a smarter, more sophisticated version of what that was trying to do. I'm going to watch it because there's not a ton of stuff that's similar to this. There's not a tons of comedies out there. And again, like I love seeing a guy like Steve Buscemi, Bryan Cranston just show up for like a scene and kill it. And then, the story moves on because it is the behind the scenes Hollywood. Obviously it's exaggerated, but some truth to it.
I think we just have to see, because I think you only watched the first episode, right, Bruno? So we just have we're just seeing them just getting things started. So we have to see where all these, characters with that Bryan Cranston, that all have big personalities, and see if they all get their moment on screen and not just clash into each other.
Yeah, I don't know if the whole season is gonna revolve around this Kool-Aid movie. Maybe it'll be just like an ongoing backstory, but hopefully it's more than that. And some of these characters get a little bit of time to sort of grow. Catherine O'Hara, who's like the head of marketing, she's absolutely bonkers, just in like how her outfits and her, how that sizzle reel for the Kool-Aid that they present, like stuff like that. I guess I'm in, man. I'm in on this Apple thing for now.
Now, you're in it for a good amount of time, because I don't think they're published in the episodes all at the same time. I think they let 1 or 2 episodes up at the start.
Yeah, I think there's maybe like 2 or 3 out right now. I'm not sure.
And they're rolling them out slowly.
It was a 2-episode premiere, and then I believe the 3rd episode comes out on Wednesday. So pretty quickly.
So I don't know. I don't know what I couldn't really find anything of what the rollout schedule is, but it's going to be on an ongoing basis, it seems like.
Yeah, that's better for me, because then, we get to talk about it week in, week out, or, sort of spread out the conversation over a couple of weeks. And then it lets me also, take a break between each episode. So I do like the weekly drop. Pedro, how did you feel about the episode? I feel like it's not up your wheelhouse.
It's not up my wheelhouse, and my first initial thoughts upon finishing the episode, the pilot, was I didn't need to hear 99% of that dialogue. I feel like the entire first episode story was like 3 minutes of dialogue, but it's the style they're going for. They're going for like that overwhelming amount of dialogue while the camera's moving, while like hectic stuff is going around. And I don't know. I mean, to me, it's been done before. It's not like the first one to do it. And I just think it was going for style over substance. I thought the camera work was great. I thought it was interesting. Like when they started it, I'm like, oh wow, this is one take now. Like, at what point are they gonna cut?
Yeah.
And there were cuts. They just hit it, like kind of like Birdman, the movie did, like they'll pass through a wall or a door, and that'll be the cut there. But yeah, I just thought it was just so much dialogue that it didn't allow for any character depth. Like even our main character, who was literally on screen the whole time, like we don't know much about him other than all this dialogue that's being said about him, which is like, hey, you're getting promoted to this and that, like
Yeah.
no real character depth. They were all kind of flat. And it's because of they're choosing to focus on all this other stuff going around. I did like, I mean, I always think it's great, but I did like what you mentioned with like all the cameos and guest appearances and like a quick shot for a quick joke and stuff. But I don't know. It might be like Apple TV's wanting to make something like the franchise and like Entourage at the same time.
Yeah, a little Entourage vibes. Just that Hollywood setting, I think, gives you that. I think to your point, yeah, none of the characters have really been developed yet. The only thing we know about Seth Rogen's character is that he loves art house movies and he's always wanted to be a studio head since he was a kid. But who is he really? Yeah, we don't really know yet. The other characters are kind of all a little bit exaggerated, from Sal, who plays his buddy, and he's another executive at the studio, to again like the marketing, and then the assistant to the marketing person. That guy, I don't really know what he's doing. And Bryan Cranston, he's over the top, but in a really enjoyable way. I thought, because they didn't overdo him on screen. I think he was on screen twice in 2 scenes, maybe 3. But yeah, I am gonna watch the second episode. I think they're about 40 minutes each. It's not that long. And yeah, I like that. I thought it was cool. I'm not. Again, we'll see. We'll see where the season goes and where they take it. But I'm in. At this point, I'm in. Scott, are you in or are you out?
Yes, I'm going to continue this or continue watching.
Okay, cool. All right, so maybe we'll sort of keep tabs on it, see if it's worth discussing further down the road at some point. But in sticking with the Apple TV theme, another show, Pedro, do you recommend this show? I was aware of this show. It's a show called Dope Thief. Stars Brian Tyree Henry and Wagner Moura. Wagner Moura is a guy that you will know his face, but not his name. And Brian Tyree Henry is one of those guys that you're like, oh, he's a really good actor, but everything he's in kind of sucks. And I don't know why that is. He's kind of good in everything. He's still like, his best work is probably still Atlanta.
Other than Atlanta, everything else he's been in has kind of bombed.
Yeah. But every time he's in something, it's like, oh, Brian Tyree Henry's in this. And it's like, oh, he was in like a Godzilla movie. He was in an Eternals movie, and a couple other things. But so that being said, my initial feeling going into Dope Thief was low expectations. I have a lot of notes on this show. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the premise is basically two Philly friends pose as DEA agents and they rob drug dealers, small time drug dealers, crack houses, operation houses, things like that. That's basically the show. They end up robbing the wrong place, and then they get in trouble. They're kind of in between a criminal organization and federal agents at this point, and that's basically the runway for the show. Pedro, you recommended this. Are you feeling it?
So, real quick, and then we'll get to we'll get to more of your extensive notes. But it wasn't a recommendation.
Oh, he wants to clarify this.
Let me just clarify. It wasn't a recommendation based on me thinking it's a good show, let's watch it, or like that I had previously watched it. It premiered it was like the premiere. It popped up for me. I saw the trailer a few days before the premiere, and I thought the trailer was great. A lot of people online on the YouTube page for the trailer were complaining that the trailer was like 3.5 minutes long, and it basically was just a summary of everything that's going to happen in season 1. But I thought the trailer was cool. It was interesting, so I just threw it out there, and I thought it was worth checking out. What struck me first was this isn't the type of and not to keep getting at Apple, but this wasn't the type of content I'd expect to see on Apple TV, like a
street crime,
like a crime, crime drama.
This is their Wire.
Crime drama. Yeah, so it was interesting that they were doing that. The big thing that hit me from the trailer was that Ridley Scott was behind this as a producer and apparently a director for episode 1.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I could have sworn they put him down as a director. I don't know if he'll be coming back for more episodes or not, but I think he might have just directed the first episode.
He did actually. I saw at the very end he did direct the first one.
Yeah. So a couple interesting things there, not Apple TV's type of content, not something you'd expect Ridley Scott to be behind. And I think that, the show, I think it had a lot of flaws, and it's probably for those reasons that I mentioned. It's, kind of like experimentation with other things. Like, what the hell is Ridley Scott doing behind this, directing this? I don't know. I think it's based on a New York Times best-selling book, so the story's good. The story's good. The script of the TV series is good. It's a plot that can work. I think the acting and the chemistry between the two main actors is completely off, and that really hurts it and takes away from it. I think they're both good actors, but
that's interesting.
I think they're both good actors. I just don't think they work together. I think Henry has this thing where, like, every line he delivers, or all, like, when his delivery just has like a comedic element to it.
A little bit.
It's like always like he's always trying to like make it sound funny or something. And then Wagner Moura is just, the guy's a good actor. He's been in a ton of stuff. I mean, he's backed up his work, but it's just, his accent is so heavy, man, that it's kind of distracting, and you can't really understand a lot of what he's saying.
They addressed that on the show.
What's the reason for that?
Well, I just mean they address it as in they're talking about someone else that they're like, oh, he's not from here because he has an accent. He's like, well, he could be like me. He moved here as an adult and now he has a thick accent.
Yeah. So they're gonna cover it up, but ultimately, it's like why? I don't know. I feel like
somebody must have been like, why is
he's being cast in so many things, and like he's always cast. He's like being cast as playing something else. Like, I've seen him in a few like Brazilian movies and shows, and he's great because he's speaking his native language. But like, they cast him in like Spanish speaking roles, and it's like, he has a Portuguese accent speaking Spanish, so it's kind of like not that believable. And then like they cast him as like in this, and it's just, I don't know, it kind of takes away from it. I thought the show also tries to add little bits of comedy here and there, and I don't understand why, because it's supposed to be a crime drama. Like, one example was when the woman who got shot in that robbery in the meth lab
toward the end,
turned out she's a DEA agent, or she's in some sort of law enforcement agency undercover.
She's undercover.
There, the other cops are there, like talking to her in her hospital bed, and like she's trying to do like some text to speech because she's badly injured and can't talk, and like the text to speech has autocorrect, and it's making everything she say like sound funny, and the curses sound funny, and it's like, why do we need that? And why do we need like little comedic deliveries from Henry? If this is like, I'm watching this because I want like gritty crime drama. I don't like,
Yeah.
why are you trying to add some of these things? It's also the grayest looking show I've ever seen. It's continuing
Yo,
that trend.
I almost took a screenshot at one point when they're entering the last, like, in the last drug house at the end.
Yeah.
I was like, God damn, this thing is like desaturated to death, but it's like muddy.
It's continuing the trend of these like flat looking, badly color corrected, or just, I don't know why this is a trend to make things look like that, but I understand like it works a little for this.
It works in the city.
Yes, it adds to that grittiness and like the whole thing, but it's like way gray. Like there's shots where like there's no contrast.
Yeah, so the show takes place mostly in Philly, largely inside cars, but then there's a couple of scenes that take place like in more rural areas, and that's where the show
kind of like the outskirts of Philly, probably like that farmland area of Pennsylvania. I mean, not Philly.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, and just super gray. And I'm not sure why that decision was made, but when it takes you out of it, when it looks strange, yeah, I literally was about to send you guys a screenshot. Like, yo, have you noticed this? I got a couple. I like the show. I liked it. I see all your points, and I kind of agree with all of them, except Manny. His character doesn't bother me as much as it's bothering you. Maybe in part because I now watch almost all shows with subtitles, so that I'm always kind of split.
Yeah, same here.
What did you think of the first 15 minutes when the show opens? They're in a van and they're kind of goofing around. They're staking out a crack house. They're dressed as police officers, DEA agents, and I didn't watch any trailers, so I'm under the assumption that these guys are cops and that they're gonna go bust. But
okay, that's cool. That's cool. If you went into it blind and that's how they got you, that works then.
But I was like, yo, these guys are the worst police officers I've ever met. They just barge in, they don't call anybody, they don't say anything, and then you realize that they're actually robbing the place and they're not cops. And I was like, oh, I thought that was really cool, but I kind of had to like really judge the show to get to that point in a negative way.
Yeah, so I would have loved to have that experience, but again, like I said, I watched the trailer that just gave everything away, and what's up?
Yeah. To your point, the directing in this one was really good. I like one line that kind of describes the show is when he says he's basically like, just info dumping on what the show is about to another character that they meet, and he's like, we take our cut from the chaos. And I thought that was like a dope summary for the show in general, because amidst all the drug use and drug dealing in Philadelphia, they just go in and get their cut. Yeah, I thought, there's a scene where they spend a lot of time talking about what they do, how careful they are, and how serious to take this when another guy shows up to sort of string along. That guy was full of red flags, by the way. Like,
so that was a point I was gonna bring up, and I'm glad you brought it up, because if that's what led to that character introduction, the fact that they're so careful with what they do, they never get caught, they've been doing this for a while and stuff, and then they just bring up this completely unstable, like jittery, like junkie, and it's like, why are they talking to him, and why are they trying to bring him along with this? And you just knew right away, like, this guy is gonna mess up their scheme, and that's what's gonna like set the wheels in motion of what's gonna end up happening on this show. It was like so easy to predict.
Yeah, too easy. I mean, the guy is a walking red flag. Like, everything about this dude is shady. And to your point, he's like jittery. They give him a gun. As soon as they get to the location, they're like, okay, we're gonna take our time, and he just runs off on his own. All right, like, what?
And that's what I'm saying. It's like things like that don't make this show like that good for me. It's watchable because I enjoy the genre and like the content, but it's like I don't understand why they do stuff like that, you know? It's like you could be smarter than that.
It caps that. It caps how good it can be because of these choices. But I still enjoyed it. I also thought at the end, Pedro, your whole screen just got taken over by a giant fur ball. What's your cat's name?
Mookie.
Mookie. Sky, you've been quiet. I know you haven't watched the show. Apologies for the rant.
Wait, what? You're still going?
Yeah, we're still going. I just want to say one more thing.
We'll get Scott in for the next segment.
Yeah, I thought when they reached that drug house at the end, that idiot junkie that they bring with them, he basically is the only person that shoots everybody and gets shot. I feel like the two main characters could have just left and nobody would know they were there because there's no evidence tying them specifically because they didn't shoot any firearms. Their fingerprints are not anywhere. And I'm like, guys, you guys are good. Just leave. Like, I thought that was crazy.
That might be, I think that at first I thought, I'm like, why was that character needed if they just killed him off like a few minutes later? But I guess his only purpose was to save, what was it, Ray's character from getting shot from the guy that was actually cooking. When that guy busts through the door, this like junkie guys that was already been shot and is on the ground, like actually musters up enough energy to pick up his gun and shoot the guy that's about to shoot Ray.
Yeah. I thought the undercover cop at the end, that twist was cool.
That was good, yeah.
They're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place now with the drug dealers and the police. So I'm going to continue watching. I'm going to check it out. What do you think about Henry's kind of like backstory that they go into? It's a little all over the place. Like,
yeah, it's okay. I like his mom as a character, his stepmom, his adopted mom as a character. His like, the mom, his father being in jail and stuff. I thought that was all fine.
And then the girlfriend who was killed in a
that and the flashbacks are kind of like,
I don't know why we needed that.
Kind of dumb, yeah. It's kind of dumb, and I mean, the more they show of like his personal life, the less I'm interested in it, because it's like, all right, this guy's a grown man. Why is he still living with this lady, like in that little like room in the attic? And like, you know, he's not that young. Or I mean, are they trying to tell us that he's young? Because his partner is like married and stuff, and like they have, they're like, if you're robbing drug dealers and making like thousands of dollars, why are you living with your mom in the attic? You know?
Yeah, no, he's supposed to be the age he is. There's a lot of flaws. He goes to an AA meeting, and then the next scene, he's like drinking a beer that he hid in a toilet. I'm like, I don't know. Do we need all this? I'm going to keep watching nevertheless. Are you going to keep watching it, Pedro? Or have you kept watching it?
Yeah, I'll keep watching it. I watched the second episode too, and I think they released just the whole season in one shot, right?
No, I think they released like 2 or 3.
It was one of those multi-episode premieres.
Yeah. I think there might be 3 out.
I'm gonna keep watching it, and I did mention to you guys before, but to mention it on the show, when I first started watching it, I was ready to give up like halfway through the first episode and just like, you know, consider it an L. But towards the end of that pilot episode, when like they start opening up the story with the meth lab robbery gone wrong and everything, then I kind of started getting invested in it, because like the pace started picking up. You start feeling like more desperation from these characters in this like situation they got themselves in. So, and then it carries on into the second episode too. So, you know, if you could get past like those little quirks that.
Just get past the plot device. It's just they use this
and the first 15 minutes
as a plot device to just turn the show on its head. But once it gets there, I feel like it's pretty good. Even the guy who was the drug dealer who calls him on the walkie-talkie, he sounded pretty menacing, and I thought that was pretty cool. Their little exchange. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'll keep an eye on it. That's also on Apple TV, guys. So check it out. Apple TV has some good stuff right now. So if you have those free codes, like Scott, now's a good time to use
Bruno,
them.
can you just share those? I don't know what these codes you got. You got to share them. You're
These are
keeping
codes
them-
you buy an Apple product or you sign up for some. You get like a little free trial.
Yes, you do. Yes.
There's also a John Hamm show coming out on Apple TV Plus that I'm going to be checking out in a few weeks. Okay, Scott, sorry to keep you on the sideline, but we're going to tag you in for this next segment, Dark Side of the Ring.
That was a good dad joke right there. Tag you in, since we're going to be talking about a wrestling program right now.
I don't
Yeah.
even know. I don't even know if I've even put that in the category of a dad joke.
No? Okay.
No.
All right, so
yes,
switching
tell us-
over, guys, from
tell us
Apple
what,
TV. We've talked a lot about Apple TV. We're gonna pivot to TV Land now, television. Vice Land is apparently still a channel. It's still releasing new content. And Dark Side of the Ring, one of their more successful and popular series based on stories on the inner workings of the wrestling industry, and the behind the scenes craziness that has happened throughout the years. Just premiered their first episode of season 6. It's amazing that this show has gone this long and is now up to season 6. But in the world of wrestling and all the stories involved in it, there's an endless amount of content. So this show can just go on and on and on. So the premiere for season 6 was about the Hell in a Cell match, famous WWF match that occurred in the later half of the 90s. You guys can correct me on this.
That was still the 90s?
Yeah, I believe it was 1998 or 99 when this happened. And it was just one of those matches where it had a huge spot. Spot is like a wrestling terms for when like something happens, like something big during a match, and it went down in history as like one of the biggest spots in wrestling ever. It was the wrestler Mick Foley versus the Undertaker, who everyone knows. And it was the first time that this concept of a match was made. Hell in a Cell.
Hold up. That's not true. I thought that too, but they actually mentioned it was Undertaker. Shawn Michaels was the first one, and they mentioned.
Okay, yes, that is correct.
You have to live up to that.
Yes, that is correct.
Hell in a Cell. I think.
And this is what happens sometimes when you have wrestlers telling stuff. They like to exaggerate and use their own perspective, and also when it's a promotion, they like to say that they're the first to certain things, because in the wrestling world, outside of a certain promotion, the other ones don't exist because it's competition. But it was, according to this episode and some of the wrestlers telling the stories, the first time a wrestler did a spot off the top of this enclosed cage where they get launched from the top of the cage to the outside of it.
Okay, hold up. I don't want you to say anymore. We got the setup. I want to throw it to Scott, just because Scott, I have a background watching wrestling for a long time when I was a kid. You have, Pedro, you have an even longer history with wrestling, but Scott, I feel like this is a little bit outside your realm, which, I'm curious to know like what you thought about watching this stuff.
Well, I know the Undertaker. I know of the Undertaker, and I know of Mick Foley. Just by seeing the channel, back in the day,
the faces.
I would know the faces. I could not even name one of the, know who's wrestling now, because it's just a revolving door, of those people who are doing it. I knew about the cage, but I think if you say, you have to say Hell in a Cell. I knew about, I've seen that where they do the wrestling matches in the cell. But I didn't realize that what really made me get grossed out. I kind of had to look away. The whole thing of there being thumbtacks, really? You need to
Yeah.
throw thumbtacks. Now I don't really know, and you really can't tell, but Mick Foley did say that the whole thing, he didn't think about how he was going to handle once he got on top of the cell, how he was going to start. He sort of goes on about that. Once he got up there, he was sort of nervous and afraid. He didn't get what was going to happen, and then the whole thing just started, and the whole cell was connected by zip
Zip
ties,
ties.
which
The top parts. Yeah.
the top part, which I don't get, who is the genius that came up with that. But
Sketchy.
yeah, but yes, very. It just adds up to what the WW, I believe it was WWF at the time.
Yeah.
No, it was, and then he jumped.
Were you able to get into it? Were you able to gain sort of interest in the story and the storytelling? And
Yes, I got into it after the first 20 minutes, and I said, okay, how good this is an hour. How are they going to stretch this? What I felt like every single time Mick Foley was talking, I go, where is the Undertaker? Why don't they have the Undertaker talking as well?
I saw that in the first few minutes.
And they felt like, oh, since we don't have that, we're gonna just have his kids and his wife talk.
Well, I think the counterpoint to that is I think these are singular stories, singular point of view stories. So it's not about, this episode wasn't specifically about the match. Yes, that was main of it, but it was more about Mick Foley and his career. And this match is a huge part of that. And I think that's why The Undertaker wasn't really a focus.
And he mentions how this match was like set off like a resurgence. His career was kind of like going down at that point, and this kind of like revitalized it and gave him a second run.
What I really liked about the show, I've seen wrestlers talk about this match. I've seen this match. I've seen the highlights of this match. I mean, if you're into wrestling, you've seen all this stuff and you kind of know all this stuff. What I really love about this documentary is that you get to see all the behind the scenes, the thinking of the people involved. So from the technical director to the doctors on hand to the referee and the ringside announcers. This match in particular, sort of, I felt as they were talking through it, and every time, he gets thrown off the top, and then he gets body slammed through the cage, and then he gets thrown on thumbtacks. It's like every time one of these incidents happened, I felt like there was a real life moment where they're like, okay, maybe we stop this match. They check on Mick Foley, and then the decision to go on. I don't know if it was solely Mick Foley's decision to go on. Obviously, Undertaker stayed in character the whole time, but you see that sort of blurred lines between real and scripted or staged or entertainment, I guess, right? I think
and that was
the cool part for me.
And that was an era in the wrestling industry, like they said, where there was no concussion protocols or anything like that.
Yeah.
And, wrestlers were a different breed back then, like you were not a good, strong enough wrestler if you didn't just carry out the match till the end. No matter how hurt you are, you're expected to do that. I mean, obviously nowadays, if someone has like a head injury, they actually stop it, and you see like the refs give like a flag, and like even the commentators will say like, oh, they're getting checked for a concussion, but none of that existed back then. And it was just like the sheer will of this wrestler, Mick Foley, to just keep going and finish this match and give the crowd what they want and make this like a career defining moment for him and the Undertaker and the WWF. And
one of the things he says a lot is how the crowd was reacting to that moment, right? Every time we pause and we come back to the Mick Foley interview when he's describing what was going on, part of his thinking is always like how the fans were reacting. And he's like, and that's what I thrive on. That's what keeps me going. And he would literally get up. I think he was knocked out for like 40 seconds at one point, right?
At that second spot when he gets chokeslammed through the cage into the ring, he there was a chair underneath him that sort of bounced up and hit him in the head and
Yeah.
knocked him out for about 40 seconds, he said.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's one match, but there's those different things that happened in the match, and like he suffered like injuries from each one of those, and
They just compound. Yeah.
yeah, and it was just interesting to see like his family's reaction and their point of view. And like, you know, like I've watched wrestling for a while and I didn't know all that stuff. I didn't know that he lost a tooth and it went through his
Came out his
throat
nose.
and it came out his nose. And I didn't know he actually lost consciousness. You know, you don't know these things. You didn't know he suffered a concussion from that and all that.
All this time I've been okay. Up until now I was good. I didn't need to know. I didn't need to know about his tongue. He wants to stick it through the hole. It's like, no, I don't. No.
I forgot about that.
And then you forgot about that? I didn't forget about it. Thankfully, they had a still image to show everyone in the show.
He was like, he cut his lip and he put his tongue through it. Was that what it was?
Something like that.
Sky, you'll appreciate this. I appreciated this. So this match is very iconic. The imagery is pretty timeless. If you're a wrestling fan again. But so there's this very iconic shot anytime they talk about and show this match. Aerial shot of Undertaker throwing Mick Foley off the top of the cage. But it just cuts beautiful to a shot below from the announcer's table of him falling. And it's just like, shout out to the technical director for catching that, because that was live cut.
Wait.
And also the two cameramen for being perfectly positioned to catch that sequence.
This is what I mean. This is what I've been thinking about, is that these things are somewhat planned.
They're all planned, Scott, of course.
There happened to be a camera right in the announcer booth, or I guess folding table, standing by to be broken at any moment.
No, the stunt was choreographed. It's
all choreographed, but you don't know what the final result of the spot or the move that they do is going to be. And that's how real injuries happen. And they mentioned, like, if the Undertaker would have thrown him like an extra foot, he would have landed in the barricade, or he would have landed in the crowd, or he would have, if he didn't turn his body mid-air, he wouldn't have landed flat on his back, and the table wouldn't have broken the announcer table wouldn't have broken his fall, or he would have landed on concrete if he missed the. So yeah, they're positioned to get it. They know when the spot is coming up, how they're building up to it, but ultimately you don't know the final result. Like there was a point when they were walking on top of the cage, and the cage like starts giving out, and they fall like a foot or something. They don't fall, but like they step. Like, and a foot drops on this cage, and it's like at that point they're like, damn, this isn't safe, but they're going, they're still continuing the match. And it's like, at that point, if you're one of the two wrestlers, you're like, you don't know what the hell is going to happen with this match.
There's a great present to figure that out.
A great point was, I think Undertaker was about to choke slam Mick Foley, and obviously the two wrestlers are speaking to each other. And they decided, like, nah, if you choke slam me through this, like, I'm going straight through and you're coming with me. So they sort of scratched that plan. It ended up happening anyway later, but it just shows you, like, these things are planned. They're planned by, the production team with the wrestlers. To your point, Pedro, there's certain spots that are going to happen. But then the rest of the match is really choreographed in real time by the wrestlers. It's like, yes, we know this big move is going to happen, but what about like the 5 minutes of fighting to get us there, right? How are we going to get to that point? So it's really cool how they were aware that the cage was going to break after they sort of stepped into that, and it almost broke. And so they decided to not do that specific move at that time. It's just really cool for me to see, again, like, the planning, the behind the scenes, the choreography of this stuff is what I find most interesting after watching it as a fan when I was younger. It's really cool. It got me thinking about, like, I know this is probably the most famous wrestling match of all time right now. Is this, Pedro, what is your, like, not favorite, maybe favorite, like most memorable wrestling matches? And if any come to
I mean,
mind?
there's too many to name. I mean, that whole 90s, late 90s era of WWF had so many great moments. But this is definitely like top there, like top three for everyone. And I think that's
Yeah.
why so many people know like the imagery or know what the Hell in a Cell match is, or like know who one of these two wrestlers is because of this match.
This was a funny time, and I remember as they were going through Mick Foley's career, I was like, yeah, I remember Mankind when he switched to sweatpants and a button-up white shirt and tie. But I don't know, like, what the story was that got him to that point. He went through so many iterations of his characters that, but I remember that outfit was funny as hell. That was right before he switched back to his Cactus Jack persona. Yeah, it's cool, man. If you're even if you're not a fan of wrestling, I think this is a cool documentary for you to watch, just because it gives you some inside baseball stuff. You also hear from the family members, and like, imagine being a 5-year-old kid watching your dad like flying off top of a cell onto the floor. So it tells you a little bit about like what the families go through when they watch, their dads or husbands entertaining the fans in this way.
Do you remember if the fight was on pay-per-view or regular cable? Or
Yeah, it was a
regular TV?
pay-per-view. It was a pay-per-view event.
I was trying to look that up to see what it was considered.
Yeah, it was. And back then they used to really like hype these matches up weeks in advance, and then like the week before they used to put these trailers together of all the clips and all the exchanges of the beef over the past like 3 months. They were so good, man. I used to love those trailers. They really got you pumped for the match. Couple other good matches. These are just ones I remembered off the top of my head. Triple H, Cactus Jack at the Royal Rumble. HBK versus Razor Ramon, the first ladder match, and then the TLC match with the Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys, and who's the other tag team in that? There was a third tag team. I think
Edge and Christian. They were
Edge and
called Edge and
yeah.
Christian.
Those 3 matches for me are some of my favorites. Yeah, that whole era was freaking crazy. Man, that era was.
It was must-watch TV.
Yeah.
Now,
Any final thoughts?
I believe just to remind everyone, I believe the Mick Foley storyline is going to continue into multiple episodes. I believe this was not the only episode that they're featuring this. It's going to continue into other episodes of the season, I believe, because I think they did a teaser what's coming up in the next episode, I think.
Good to know. I might check that out. Where did you guys watch this?
I think you can guess where I watched it, but
no, that's a real question, because Pedro sent a link, but it was
I have
dead when
Hulu
got
Live.
it.
I have Hulu Live. So it's on demand on the Viceland channel on Hulu Live.
I watched it on demand.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Good to know. So
if you have cable or Hulu, Viceland is still a channel there, and you can access all their content on demand.
So subscription through cable.
Yes, but it looks like but it looks like you can watch it on Vice TV on the website. It looks like you can play it, but it comes up to choose your provider. So yes, you have to be a subscriber to watch it.
Okay. Yeah, so it might be tough for everyone to get their hands on it. These usually end up on YouTube at some point. I know there's a bunch of the old episodes are on YouTube, but this one got pulled, so might be tough. But highly recommended. Is one of the hardcore legend, as they call him. So recommend that. We'll leave it there. Cool episode. A lot of cool stuff coming up. Last of Us Part 2 or Season 2. We'll be sure to check that out. Beyond that, any final thoughts, guys?
Keep your chairs and tables on the ground.
All right. Be sure to subscribe to the show. like the episode, comment. That stuff helps a ton. I know everybody
Share it.
knows that.
Share it
share
with
it.
people you know. Share it on your handles. Get the word out.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week. Peace.